interests of colonization in taking Palestine away from the Arab world met with those of the Zionists in establishing a national homeland. Actually, it was the European rulers who offered a national home on Palestinian land for the Jews long before the Jewish themselves suggested it. The leaders in charge of the Zionist movement, Lord Rothschild and Weizmann, aimed at making some connections with Britain, the very thing that they led to the establishment of the Promise of Balfour. One of the main reasons that encouraged Britain to agree to this promise was that the Jewish state would be in the main line of defense for the Suez Canal and the continuation of separating the Arab region. On 11 December 1917, the British armies entered Jerusalem under the leadership of General Allenby and started the actual implementation of the Balfour Promise. Consequently, confirmations between the Arab and the Jews took place. In 1919, the League of Nations imposed the British mandate over Palestine. Since the beginning of this century, the efforts made by the Palestinians in defending their rights in Palestine continued. In 1918, a secret patriotic committee was formed and included members of the Palestinian police. This committee played an important role in preparing for the Arab Revolution in Palestine and spreading awareness about the Zionist danger among the Bedouin tribes in East Jordan. However, the arrests of its leaders weakened it. The Palestinian struggle against the Zionist schemes continued with the revolution of the prophet Moses from 4 to 10 April 1920, followed by the Jaffa Revolution in 1921 and the Burak Revolution in 1929. These confrontations were emotional and unorganized, but they helped by heating up the struggle and thereby delaying the Zionist plans. Palestinian fighters organized more forces. One of the most important forces was organized in 1935 by Izz-al-Din al-Qasim, a religious teacher who came to Palestine from Syria. In 1935, Al-Qassam declared the beginning of the revolution. This revolution came after a series of political fruitless efforts for a peaceful solution. After a number of confrontations between Al-Qassam forces and the British Army, Al-Qassam took refuge in Ya'bad with 52 of his men. The British Army surrounded him and his men and asked him to surrender, but he refused. Unfortunately, he was shot along with two of his followers. The rest of the men were arrested after brutal fighting between the two parties. Arab countries achieved their independence at the beginning of the 1940s, it was too late for those people to participate with the Palestinians in their battle against the Zionist movement. Zionism has been declared, and the result was a loss of Palestine in the War of 1948. Since then, the Palestinian problem has entered the Arab policy. Still, the Zionists believed that their existence that was declared over the occupied territory in 1948 did not contain all the land that they considered Israeli land today. In 1956, the Jewish state participated with France and Britain in the attack on Egypt. David Ben-Gurion informed the synagogue that one of the aims of this participation of the Zionist state in the attack on Egypt is the liberation of that part of the homeland, the Sinai Desert, that is occupied by the intruders. The colonial efforts did not succeed in achieving the Zionist goal through the attack of 1956, except that the Arab efforts were helpless and hesitant, the very thing that gave the Zionists a golden period to support its military force and to plan an attack in 1967, the year in which the Zionist power inundated the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. The area that was left under Arab control after the attack of 1948. Moreover, the Zionists were able to occupy the Egyptian peninsula of Sinai, the Syrian Golan Heights. The Jewish occupying forces withdrew from Sinai by virtue of the conditional peace agreement with Egypt that virtually leaves the eastern gate of Egypt open to any Jewish attempt. The nature of the Zionist project and its dimensions stood as a motivation for the people of Palestine to participate against this project and to come up with new suitable ways for resisting it. Therefore, public revolutions that were directed by the Palestinians through its glorious Intifada in 1987 and the emergence of the Islamic resistance movement, Hamas, has increased the movement of resistance and accelerated the struggle. The 1987 Intifada proved that Palestinian struggle was still alive. The emergence of Hamas and the other national and Islamic organizations strengthened the wave of the Intifada. Unfortunately, the fruits of the Intifada were picked up early and misused in a fruitless peace process. The 1990s witnessed many treaties between the PLO and successive Israeli governments. These treaties resulted only in legitimizing the Israeli occupation on most of the Palestinian land. In the year 2000, Palestinians were fed up with the illusion of peace process. This resulted in the eruption of the Second Blessed Intifada in September 2000. Ariel Sharon's visit to Al-Aqsa Mosque ignited the Intifada, and Palestinians proved again that they know how to struggle for their rights. Increased pressure from Hamas and the other national and Islamic resistant groups on Israeli occupation alarmed the Israelis and the Americans, who in turn pushed the Palestinian Authority to conduct transparent elections with the hope that the democratic process will tame the resistant movement. In 2006, Islamic resistance achieved a sweeping victory in the parliamentary elections, which meant putting the permanently ill peace process to an end. In 2009, Israeli occupational forces attacked Gaza, causing thousands of deaths and injuries. Although the Israelis continue their aggression on the Palestinian people and land, Palestinians have proved that they will never surrender or let down their sacred national rights. This struggle, however, will need the continuous support of Arabs, Muslims, and free people to bring about freedom and self-determination for Palestinians.